Hey everyone, how's it going? This is our 99th solo run. We've been doing this for 4.5 years, which is crazy. And in today's video, we have Growlithe. Now, looking at Growlithe's stats and moves quickly, we have a very classic Gen 1 Pokemon problem, especially for pre-evolved. Growlithe has decent stats for pre-evolved, but it doesn't have an amazing move pool. It has a pretty decent one. It has a badge boosting move in agility, and it has a multi-coverage move in Dig, and Dig at least is learned very early on. The biggest problem will be Brock. Bite isn't great for Brock. If it was Dark type, it would be amazing, but it's not, and having to go all the way to level 18 isn't great either. But Growlithe has an additional problem that we haven't talked about too much in these challenges, but sometimes we do. It is in the slow level up group, because Arcanine is one of the best Pokemon statistically in Generation 1. So that's going to be a problem if we have to level up all the way to level 18 for Brock. What might make or break this run is the very first gym. But first, a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Boot.dev. Boot.dev is an excellent way to learn back-end web development in two popular languages, Python and Go. Now you might be wondering, but J-Rose, why do I want to learn back-end web development? Well, according to Stack Overflow, the median salary for back-end web developers was over $100,000. But J-Rose, it's just so boring. Well, good news. Boot.dev's primary philosophy is to make sure that learning back-end web development isn't boring. As someone who plays RPGs, I like seeing experience points, quests, numbers going up, and Boot.dev does all those things, giving you a real sense of progression. Another great thing about Boot.dev is that they understand that the best way for you to learn to code is to write a lot of it and build real projects, which you'll be able to do through the exercises at Boot.dev. So if Boot.dev sounds like something you'd be interested in, well, good news. I have a promo code. If you go to Boot.dev and use the promo code JRose11, you will get 25% off your first payment, whether that's the first month or the first year. All right, so since Bite does have a chance to flinch, I thought trying Brock out would be, well, it wasn't a good idea. I mean, it didn't really cost me any time. I wanted to battle the trainer anyway, but as that trainer says, we are light years away from defeating Brock. Now, you'll notice in some of the runs, I won't try Brock that many times, but with the slow level up group, it's really important we beat Brock as early as possible, as long as early realistic. And Growlithe has really good attack. The biggest problem with Geodude specifically is once it starts going for Defense Curl, we just can't do enough damage. We're getting a few crits, and that really helped us, but it wasn't enough to even knock out Geodude, and we still would have Onix. It takes me about 3 minutes of real time, and don't forget, we're going at increased speed, to increase a level. So we really want 14 to be the one, and we do get to Onix. The biggest problem is that Onix, even though it doesn't have Defense Curl, it's still very strong. I was hoping I would flinch the Bide and just keep wailing away with Bite, but we were going to run out of power points anyway, so I don't think 14 is the level. Sadly, the level where it finally became possible was 17, so we didn't need Ember, a special move which would have helped, but we did need enough power to knock out the Geodude quickly and then just kind of bite our way through Onix. Now, I understand we could go for Roar conceivably, but unlike Growl or Leer, it doesn't really do anything, so it's actually just faster and better to keep going for Bite, hoping for the flinch. And with 3 HP to spare, we are able to take down Brock. This took a very long time, and so Growlithe is definitely in an early deficit. If it can come back and just sweep through the rest of the gyms, it might be able to make up that time. But as we've seen frequently in these videos, when it comes to fire Pokemon, they just have such common weaknesses, specifically Water and Gyarados, that may not be possible, but we'll see, because the one advantage to overleveling early is it does kind of snowball in the positive direction, where Misty, Rival 2, they're all easier and therefore faster. Rival 2 is kind of the case in point of this. We're at level 19, meaning we outspeed Pidgeotto. We are hit with Sand Attack, which is very annoying, and we level up, so We're not getting any kind of badge boosting here. However, we nearly one-shot even the Rattata with Bite, and with a critical hit, Squirtle, actually 2 critical hits, Squirtle is a 2-shot. So first try victory with a sand attack. In fact, getting that sand attack was a little unlucky, and this is both attributed to having a decent move to start, Bite, as well as being a high level because we needed to defeat Brock, even though we're in the slow level up group. I don't think it's surprising that I skipped Misty for now. We're at level 24 and we have both Body Slam and Dig. Considering how great Growlithe's attack power is, these are some really powerful moves. Even though Dig is better, we do want to go for Body Slam as much as possible, but with War Turtle, I was worried about the 2-shot. We go for Dig. Dig is slow. It wastes a turn, so every time we have to use Dig, we're wasting just a little bit more in-game time. So that is something that we do need to keep in mind. We do have a 100 base power move early, even if it's not same type. So unfortunately, we've talked about this before, I can't battle Surge because I haven't beat Misty yet, but hopefully all this battling will make Misty pretty easy. Misty always has just 2 Pokemon, and I'm going to go for Body Slam, and it one-shots, which is a really good sign. We don't outspeed Starmie, however, but Dig, oh, it didn't 2-shot. So I'm going to have to use Dig twice, and this does mean that Misty can use an X defense, which is why I actually don't want to go for Dig, even though it would theoretically 2-shot. It's simply not worth it. And there you go, the X defend. Now we're looking for a paralysis, which is super important. Then I wanted to flinch or paralysis, and I got even better, a crit. That actually took me quite a few attempts. I probably could have leveled up Growlithe just a little bit more, would have been kind of nice. But in the end, it was capable of a victory, and we can move on. With Dig, Whitgag, the famous hiker, was no problem. So after making it to Celadon, I actually backtracked to Vermilion, and unsurprisingly, Surge is not going to be very difficult. You might wonder why I'm poisoned. I accidentally battled the Butterfree on the way to Vermilion, which, extra experience points, but it poisoned me. Not that it really mattered, even though I'm using Dig, everything's an easy one-shot. So, there's our 3rd gym badge. Next thing I did was go through Rocket Hideout and battle Giovanni, but this was a little easier said than done. Dig is not a one-shot, and Onyx critted with Rock Throw, which is kind of crazy. And then we don't one-shot Rhyhorn, but the bigger problem is Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan is fast, and its defense is actually good, not that you could see there. So I kind of did this a few more times and lost a lot. And you can't paralyze Kangaskhan with Body Slam because it's a normal Pokemon. So somewhat embarrassingly, I actually have to abandon battling Giovanni 1 here. Clearly Growlithe needs to level up, and I know a pretty good place for that, Erica's gym. But unfortunately, we're stuck with Ember, so it's not as if it's going to be the easiest, or quickest I should say, leveling up. It's still going to be a 2-shot, and this is really the most unfortunate thing about Growlithe. It learns Flamethrower just so late. That said, it's not as if the Pokemon are going to be a problem. I actually go for Dig against Victory Bell to avoid the Wrap Poison. I'm poisoned because, well, I couldn't one-shot anything, so they had chances to poison me. And I may actually lose versus Erica as a result. Tangle is doing some good work, and by the time Vileplume comes out, it's going to be a 3-shot with Dig, and yeah. I lost to Erica as a fire Pokemon. This really sucked because I had to go back to the Pokemon Center and heal, and once I did, Erica wasn't nearly so bad. And yes, even though it's not same type or super effective, Dig actually does do more damage than Ember, if you can believe it. Kinda crazy. This battle would have been pretty quick and easy if it weren't for Vileplume at the end putting me to sleep, but although it got a little dicey, we were able to win, so at least something is complete in Celadon City, but we still have to beat Giovanni. Well, now that we've battled all of Erica's Pokemon and we're at full health with all our power points, it shouldn't be so bad. We're gonna go for Dig, and it doesn't quite one-shot Onyx. Ember will take it out. We level up again. This time we do one-shot Rhyhorn. And now we just have to keep going for Body Slam against Kangaskhan. It goes for Rage, which is really good. We get the crit, which is really good. And it looks like we may have been able to do this earlier, but I think we both did more damage and got a little more lucky. Kind of stacks. So now we're finally ready to leave Celadon and head to Lavender. With our moves and our level, Rival 4 is going to be pretty easy. Body Slam doesn't quite one-shot Pidgeotto, but it will one-shot Growlithe, at least with a crit. Ember does not one-shot Execute, and we wake up pretty quick. And then we don't really one-shot anything. I mean, we're a pre-evolved Pokemon, but we knock them out pretty quickly, barely take any damage, and we're ready to proceed to the second half of the game. We have Dig for Koga. We're going to have Agility for Sabrina. The second half of the game might not be so bad, but if you notice that I saved, we're already at 339. So Growlithe being a top tier pre-evolved is just out of the question, but maybe we can save it from being the very lowest tier. It kind of sucks, but it just simply struggled too much with the early game. Even though the wins were quick, the amount of leveling up we needed to do to achieve those wins just took too long, especially as a slow level up group Pokemon. But there is still more run to go. Could it be the best pre-evolved fire Pokemon? Let's see. So the first battle is going to be versus Koga, and you may notice I'm way higher a level than normal, at least compared to where I was when you saw me beat Rival 4. There typically isn't such a big level gap, and I'll explain that in just a second. But you can see how much damage Muck did. Being a pre-evolved Pokemon sucks, and I'd love Wheezing to self-destruct, which it doesn't do, but we get a crit. So now it's time to explain that a couple things. One, I beat every trainer or almost every trainer on Cycling Road with Dig because they're all poison types. And two, the psychic trainers in Koga's gym were tougher than Koga. Now it may seem like I over-leveled for Koga, but Rival 5 is next, and Rival 5 is going to be tough. But it's at this point we have Agility. And with Agility, we increase our attack just a little bit, kind of like a really bad Swords Dance. But it's going to be super helpful knocking out the first 3 Pokemon, and then after I get paralyzed by the Execute, we actually... Oh, we don't outspeed Alakazam. I actually thought we would. Then we level up, which is kind of really bad because we don't have any badge boost, and now we're slow. So yeah, that can't happen. But if we level up just a little bit more, then we shouldn't level up in the middle of the battle, and then we'll have badge boost for Blastoise, and if we're not paralyzed, we'll outspeed. So we're going to do this again, just... let me battle something first. All right, Rival 5, it's me and you, and take 2 Mafu. That was worse than usual. But you can see I probably shouldn't level up in the middle of this battle. I might, 6,500. Well, I'm going to go for 1 Agility just to kind of get me a little bit more speed versus Alakazam, which turns out I don't really need the attack. Agility does not increase my special. So still a 2-shot on Execute, but I do outspeed. I actually don't level up in the middle. One thing that's important to note is that Blastoise... Oh, nice crit. Blastoise doesn't have anything better than Water Gun yet, which makes Rival 5 for a fire Pokemon a little bit deceptively easy, because Rival 6 and the champion, Rival 7, I don't usually call him that, but it is Rival 7, that will have Hydro Pump. And that's a lot more scary, because at this point it would have one-shot me, but we can worry about that a little bit later. For now, let's get our revenge against Giovanni by easily beating Giovanni too. And even though I've been doing the gyms in order a lot lately, we're going to skip and go ahead to Blaine. A couple reasons for this. One is that us being a fire type, he's not as scary. And 2, when we use Agility, we'll get a slight special boost, which could help us defensively for Sabrina. Once again, I battled all the trainers in Blaine's gym because I do have Dig, and you'll notice I am just 2 levels away from Flamethrower, which would have been helpful to have for the entire run, but what can you do? And with Dig, we've one-shot the first 3. I'm not even badge boosting here. And then the Evolved Form Arcanine, you can see how strong it is. And we almost knock it out with Dig. Blaine gets really annoying and starts potioning, but a Body Slam is enough to do the final hit. And now all that's left is Sabrina, the final Giovanni, and then what I'm really worried about, the Elite Four champion, and Rival 6 too. A lot of those Pokemon have Hydro Pump, which is why I've been pretty aggressive with leveling up, since there's really no reason to struggle against gym leaders, just to have to do a massive level up section later, especially because gym leaders, trainers, they stop being able to battle you after you beat the gym leader. So might as well battle them while you can, is my thought process. As a result of all this, we battle Sabrina by outspeeding her Kadabra and one-shotting with Body Slam. We don't one-shot Mr. Mime, but it doesn't really matter. Venomoth, I wish I had Flamethrower. It would have made this so much easier. And yet still, against the Alakazam, it does outspeed, but Dig with a crit one-shots. So the thing you have to understand is that these videos, I try my best to summarize the major battles and the strategies I use. But sometimes what gets lost, and this was true of Ho and Luigi as well, is the grinding and how that can really make or break certain Pokemon. And we've had to spend a lot of time with Growlithe grinding levels. Part of this is because this is not my first pre-evolved fire Pokemon, and so I've seen what can happen, and I'm kind of preempting it. But I don't think this is giving Growlithe any sort of advantage. It's just you spend time now or you spend time later. Anyway, time to battle Giovanni 3. Nothing important happened. We go for 1 agility just to get a little bit more power and to outspeed Dugtrio. Now that we have Flamethrower, that's pretty good, but Dig is still super effective, although it does not one-shot Nidoqueen. It will one-shot Nidoking. Nidoking's defense is not as good as Nidoqueen's. And then for Rhydon, it's probably better just to go for Flamethrower, honestly. But Pastgeros doesn't realize this and goes for Dig. As okay, Pastgeros, we all make mistakes. But that is the 8 gym badges done. And as the Elite Four and Rival 6 are famously easy for fire Pokemon, I think we're in the clear here. Alright, so Rival 6 leads with Pidgeot, and we're still actually out-leveling the Pokemon, which is cool. That's going to end soon. Couple Flamethrowers or Flamethrower Body Slam, it's enough to knock out Pidgeot. The issue comes in not Rhyhorn. I mean, it does damage, which sucks. Not Growlithe. I mean, you guys already know what it is. Like, I don't need to sit there and be like, ooh, spoiler alert. Like, we know that the issue is going to end up being Blastoise. And we do level up before Blastoise, and it has Withdraw and Hydro Pump, so we're not going to do very much damage to the Blastoise. The Blastoise can easily one-shot us. We can level up to the point where we don't level up in the middle of battle and try to badge boost, but that is going to take a little bit of time to do, and we're going to have the exact same problem a few more times. Also, doing that doesn't guarantee a win or anything. There's still the issue of all the Pokemon can do quite a bit of damage to me while I set up agilities, and then it's not as if I'm going to one-shot Blastoise. My moves are pretty bad. Blastoise is pretty bulky, and the hope is that it goes for Withdraw instead of Hydro Pump. Withdraw just makes it harder to KO the Blastoise. The obvious solution here is to use rare candies, and unsurprisingly, once I do that, the battle goes a lot better. But there's a question. Is it too early to use those rare candies? The truth of the matter is, I would say no. Now, we tend to think of rare candies as a bad proposition to use early because it takes more experience points to level up later, and that is true. But there is another side to this. It's why speedrunners use their rare candies early. It's all about saving time. And if by leveling up 10 here, we can KO not just Rival 6 Pokemon faster, but also the Pokemon in Victory Road, it actually makes sense to do it right now. Take this random Cool Trainer. At most, his Pokemon are going to be 2 shots, which is not bad. It's much better, not just in terms of offense, which I was talking about. These don't hit me, but defense as well. This is kind of the way we have to think about it. We're going to need to beat these Pokemon. We know it. We're not going to one-shot the Gyarados. And the Gyarados is going to use Hydro Pump. We're going to need to tank that and be able to knock it out, as well as Lance's other Pokemon, which Growlithe doesn't cheese. It's not part poison, nor is it part fighting. So we know what's going to happen. The question really is, with Growlithe's better stats and its ability to badge boost with agility, is it going to have an advantage over other fire Pokemon? Or is Growlithe going to be in the exact same position and thus find itself in a very similar tier? Well, after my first battle with Lorelei, I wasn't overly optimistic. Dugong comes out first, and it does go for rest early, which is good. Remember though, ice moves are not resisted, so it can use them. Cloyster then goes for Clamp because, of course, I am a fire type. And this is annoying. We knock it out, but then comes out Slowbro. Sometimes I will mimic Amnesia to use that, but here I wasn't able to, and Slowbro's Water Gun was enough to knock me out. Sure, it getting a crit's pretty unlikely, but yikes. And I have more bad news for you, or me I guess, which is the fact that that wasn't a fluke. I mean, the Slowbro knocking me out was a fluke, but Lapras, it's a pretty bulky Pokemon with Hydro Pump. And in my next 2 battles, even though I made it to Lapras with plenty of HP, it destroyed me. So all the leveling up I did in Victory Road, not enough. We need more. Not much more, mind you. At level 67, things did work out for me, finally. And it felt good to finally get past the Lapras, but the reason that we were able to do that is that we were able to two-shot with Flamethrower. That's the big thing, because we can tank a Hydro Pump. As long as we can two-shot with Flamethrower, we're good. So we move on to Bruno, and there's really not much to say about Bruno. He's really easy, and I do want to avoid using any ethers or elixirs here, because inevitably I do expect a loss, although I guess I could use one. I do want to see how Agatha goes, but I'm probably going to lose against Lance, and I probably could have used these levels, but whatever. So do we outspeed Gengar? The answer is yes, and the fact we one-shot means the Agatha Lottery will turn into the Agatha Slaughtery. Okay, that was horrendous. I'll let my editor Sean, who had to listen to that, decide whether this stays in the video or not. But yeah, we beat Agatha, hooray! So this is kind of the run. And it sucks that this is kind of how fire Pokemon work. It's partially why, although I don't want to do runs in Gold and Silver, I'm kind of excited to. It's just a different mix, but it's such a limiting factor right here. Because we don't do half, we get the miss, that's really good. A crit against, significantly less good. That is the look of someone who has an amazing Team Canada t-shirt. That video game collection, Star Trek Voyager in the top right. I mean, come on, gotta love Star Trek Voyager. Even though it's the worst of the big three Star Trek. But yeah, I lost, it sucks. I'm trying to cheer myself up with my awesome, you know what, maybe terrible, non-green screen backdrop, but yeah, we lost, that sucks, boo. Alrighty, so we make it back to Lance, and I mean, in this battle, you can see that Hydro Pump does not one-shot me, but we're not gonna win, right? Wrong, wrong. You were very, very wrong, and we got a critical hit. That said, by win, I mean knock out the Gyarados. There's still Dragonair, Aerodactyl, and Dragonite. Even when we get by Gyarados, it's not as if we have a good matchup against anything else. And unfortunately, although our move pool is, as I said, decent, it's not like magical. We don't have a fairy move, since that wouldn't exist for, what, 15 years? We don't have anything super effective. We have no electric move or ice move, so as the great Crush 41 said, we have no other options. Only one thing to do. I believe I've made that reference now 2 or 3 times, but like, Sonic music is great. Now, this is where the stats, which I appreciate how much Sean has added to the channel, can be a little deceptive. Because I'm going to start going, not intentionally for losses, but basically, I'm going to use the Elite Four as a way to gain as many experience points as I possibly can. Sometimes I get losses because I'm practicing strategies and figuring out what to do. Like in my Ho-Oh and Lugia, I lost a lot because I was just trying to figure out the right strat. I didn't necessarily need to level up. Sometimes I lose, then I have to come back and level up and then try again with the same strategy. And sometimes the strategy is to lose and gain experience points until you stop losing. Once I get to a point where I think victory is possible, I'll start using the ethers and elixirs again. Like I've said before, those don't come back. The first major hurdle is two-shotting the Gyarados. The next one would be to one-shot Dragonair, but we don't do that. I get a couple badge boosts off. That means I'll one-shot both Dragonair, and we have a new PB. We've made it to Aerodactyl, but even with a crit, I'm not going to survive any attack. I reset here because I know it's possible to win, especially if we get a Hydro Pump miss. I have said that in the Elite Four, a 25% chance of victory is what I consider good enough. Mostly because I played baseball and a 250 batting average was considered good for a while. And it does appear to me, unless I level up more, that's just going to be the strat. Even when we get a really lucky Supersonic from Aerodactyl, it just doesn't matter. We still can't knock it out. We need that Hydro Pump miss. Well, in my previous run, I actually forgot to use Elixir, so I kept the experience points, and we get the miss. So you can see me sitting up in my chair. Now we're in serious time. I'm going to go for a single agility, tank the Hyper Beam, and that means I can get off another one for free. I can knock out the 2 Dragonair with Dig. Aerodactyl, I have to go for Flamethrower. It goes for Supersonic, which is the worst. I'm out of Flamethrower, so I have to go for Body Slam. I hit myself in confusion. Then it goes for Hyper Potion, and Yeah, I can see how I've just messed up enough to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Unless Lance misses and then I get a crit. I tried so hard to mess that up. Now, the truth of the matter is, I was so used to not using elixirs and taking the level ups. That's why I forgot. Especially when I'm doing this live on Twitch, I forget what I'm doing sometimes. But we have made it to the champion at a reasonable-ish level for a fire Pokemon. This is as good a time as any to win and end this challenge. But is it going to be possible? Let's find out. So against Pidgeot, I go for agility. It goes for Sky Attack. Now I can choose to dig, and I do, avoiding the Sky Attack, and then this repeats. Now, it goes for dig here, so I have to go for dig, and finally it goes for Whirlwind. Considering that it's a 50-50 chance it goes for a move that isn't so bad for me, this is what I was waiting for. We get Body Slam, Whirlwind Body Slam, and that felt pretty good. Alakazam, I go for Body Slam, it one-shots. Rhydon, I go for dig, unaffected by the Horn Drill. I look up, all right, 9,000 to level up. That means I can start badge boosting. I get hit with Leer. So we have, I believe, 4 badge boosts up. Knockout Arcanine in one hit. Executor, I go for Flamethrower. This should one-shot. It all comes down to Blastoise. Body Slam does half. Withdraw is not enough. We win without taking a single hit. So, this is a good example of how length of video does not always mean difficulty of run. In some runs, I just have so many different strategies I go through and so much to talk about, the video gets longer. In this one, Brock was really tough and we're a fire Pokemon. But in terms of fire Pokemon, did we do well? No. Neither relative to most Pokemon or fire Pokemon. Both Charmander and Ponyta were better. Ponyta had really good stats, but both those Pokemon weren't in the slow level up group, explaining the hour-long difference. Sometimes the increased base stats from slow level up group Pokemon really help them excel, but in the case of pre-evolved Pokemon, it typically isn't enough, since they're not the ones you're supposed to be using. Guys, thank you so much for sticking with me through 99 episodes. I have many more videos to make, so I'm going to get back to it, but thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.